as if you want to compare it with the Staphylococcus, they are in the coccus form. That is, they are gram-positive organisms which are in the coccus or in the rounded shape form. If you go for the gram staining, you can see them in the coccus or the rounded form. But how they differ from the Staphylococcus, this is an important part. And if we talk about the difference from the Staphylococcus, we can see that very first difference you can identify, you can appreciate in the gram staining. In the gram staining, if you can go for the staining, then if it is a Staphylococcus, they are in the bunches. And if most of them are in the bunches, and if they are streptococcus, you can see in the chain form. However, sometimes it becomes you cannot give a confirmative diagnosis on the basis of the just saying, or on the basis of just gram positive staining, whether it's a staphylococcus or a streptococcus or some other cocci form of gram positive organism. You can only just say that it's yes, it's a gram positive organism. You can only mention that, right? So moving ahead, we'll talk about next is the what actually these streptococcus does. As I mentioned, similar to that of staphylococcus organism, streptococcus, they are basically also responsible for causing the pyogenic condition or the suppurative conditions. Like mastitis, metritis, and many more suppurative conditions. Specifically, um, one specific it's a condition or a specific disease condition which is caused by the streptococcus is you can see in the horses, and that is where it causes strangles in horses, right? And the species which is responsible is Streptococcus equi, right? So, if starting with how do we define the streptococcus organism? Streptococci, if we talk about streptococci, it is generally a group. It is cocci, it is not coccus. Cocci, that means it's a plural thing. So, streptococci, it's a group which consists of different genera within the streptococci. And these different genera are, the streptococcus is there is enterococcus is there, and then there is peptostreptococcus is there, right? So we need to differentiate between the different genera which comes within this group, that is streptococci, and that is the what is the streptococcus, what is enterococcus, and what is peptostreptococcus, right? Now, starting with the streptococcus, they are again considered as a gram-positive organism, gram-positive, facultative, and anaerobe, non-motile, but a major difference from staphylococcus is they are catalase negative, and this is how they be differentiated from the staphylococcus. Another very major differentiating feature is that they are catalase negative, right? So talking about the first very important genera which comes under this is streptococcus, and that is what we are going to study about the streptococcus. Another is the enterococcus genera, which comes under this group of streptococci, and this enterococcus is basically, as the name suggests, entero means it is something to do with the enteric pathogen. They are like enteric pathogen, and they're found in the your gut or the digestive tract, right? Now you can differentiate streptococcus from enterococcus in a way that streptococcus, they can be, as I earlier mentioned also in the previous classes, that basically all gram positive organisms, they cannot be grown on the MacConkey media, right? But as MacConkey media only favors the gram negative organism, right? So here the enterococci, being a gram positive organism coming under the group of streptococci, yet it can be grown on the MacConkey medium, and on the MacConkey media it gives you like pink color pinpoint colonies. So this is one differentiating feature. Just a minute, guys. We were talking about the streptococci group, and in that we talked about the streptococcus genera, we talked about enterococcus genera, and there is one more important is peptostreptococcus, another genera, that is the third genera. And this peptostreptococcus genera, it is basically an anaerobic streptococcus, and it is responsible, sometimes they said this peptostreptococcus is responsible for causing the summer mastitis. Many a times you will come across this word summer mastitis, and the pathogen which is responsible for causing summer mastitis is Corynebacterium pyogenes. It has been renamed as the Archaeobacterium pyogenes. But along with that, some strains of Peptostreptococcus, like Peptostreptococcus indolicus, it is also responsible for causing the summer mastitis. So when you talk about summer mastitis, the very first name that clicks you is the Corynebacterium pyogenes, which is also named as Archaeobacterium pyogenes. But along with that, some Peptostreptococcus strain, specifically the Peptostreptococcus indolicus, it is responsible for causing the, what do we say, this summer mastitis, right? So this is how it goes. We talked about streptococcus, we talked about the enterococcus, and then we talked about the Streptococcus. Now, coming specifically, we'll be restricting ourselves to the Streptococcus. Streptococcus, as I mentioned earlier, it is a gram-positive, facultative, anaerobe, catalase-negative organism, which is non-motile in nature. Again, it is oxidase negative as well. It can be differentiated. From the gram-positive Staphylococcus by the activity of catalase. In that, Staphylococcus are catalase positive, and again, here these Streptococcus are catalase negative, right? So moving on is this is this brief information about the streptococcus. And one more important point of streptococcus is, if you try and isolate the streptococcus organism, streptococcus, different species of streptococcus in the laboratory, it is really difficult. Why it is difficult? Because these organisms, they are considered as a fastidious in nature. Fastidious means they have some, when we refer somebody as a fastidious organism, or someone as a fastidious, having a fastidious nature, that means that organism or that person has some specific requirement in order to exhibit themselves, right? So for a streptococcus to exhibit in a laboratory condition, or in order to grow the streptococcus in the laboratory condition, you have to provide certain, you cannot grow it in them in the nutrient agar or normal nutrient broth medium, right? Yes, because that normal nutrient agar or normal nutrient broth won't support. Just a minute. They are considered as fastidious in nature. That is, they require certain specific, they have some specific requirement in order to grow them in the laboratory condition, and that is, you cannot grow them in a normal basal medium, and any medium which is a normal basic medium. You have to provide certain things, like either you add a blood or you add serum to those medium. That means when you add blood or you add serum or you add any other substance which is specific for the growth of any organism in a media, then that media converts into the enriched media. You must have heard about this enriched media. There is enriched media, there is enrichment media. Earlier we discussed about the basal media, we discussed about the selective media, we discussed about the differential media, right? Here we come up with another media, that is an enriched media. And enriched media is a media when you add certain other additional requirement for the growth of that organism in a normal basal media, then it converts into the enriched media. Now, how do you differentiate between an enriched, hello? How do you differentiate between an enriched and an enrichment media? What do you mean by an enriched media and an enrichment media? Can anybody come up with an answer, please? What is enriched media and what is enrichment media? This you probably might have studied in your general bacteriology course. Anybody? I will start taking individual name otherwise.
In enriched media, we have provided some additional substance such as blood or serum in the basal media, but in enrichment media, this is basically used for increase the concentration of the organism.
No, it is, you are not at the point basically. The enriched and enrichment media are basically the same media. You are adding certain things, right? But enrichment media is basically a liquid media. A liquid media, when you make it enriched with certain things in order to grow, increase the number of organism which is growing in it, then it becomes an enrichment media. And when we talk about enriched media, it is basically a solid media, right? So this is how you differentiate between an enriched and enrichment. Both of them are supplied with some kind of additional requirement for the growth of microorganism. But the thing is, enrichment media, it is liquid in nature if you go for the consistency, and enriched media, it is basically a solid media, right? So this is how you basically differentiate in the laboratory condition an enriched and an enrichment media, right? So here we were talking about the fastidious nature of the streptococcus and requires either blood or the serum in the media in order for it to be grown. So we differentiate between the different genera which comes under the group of streptococci. There were streptococcus, there are enterococcus, and there are peptostreptococcus, right? The most important differentiating feature is they are all gram positive except for the enterococci organism which grows on the Mekonghi, which is basically generally supports a gram negative organism and not the gram positive, but here it's an exception. Enterococci being a gram positive organism, it grows on the Mekonghi, right? And this is because it can tolerate the bile salts which is present. Bile salts are basically added in order to inhibit the growth of gram positive organism on Mekonghi, and it is kind of a differential media also. Not moving into the detail. Next will come on to the next is habitat. Where would you find all this organism basically? So these organisms again they are commensals. They are basically found in the upper respiratory tract and the lower and the mucosal membrane of the lower urogenital tract, right? So they are also sometimes termed as ubiquitous in nature. That is their distribution is worldwide. You can see anywhere you can go and you can come across the streptococci organism, right? Now moving on, some very important characteristic of streptococci we will talk about, which are not only are not only virulent, which provides the virulent attribute to them, and also they can be used as a differentiating criteria for differentiating from other gram-positive organism. Now, coming to this very important point is hemolysis. Hemolysis is again, if you can just recollect the different hemolysis we have discussed in the staphylococcus, where we discuss about 4 type of hemolysis were produced in the staphylococcus organism, and we discuss about two major type of hemolytic hemolysis. There were alpha and beta hemolysis in the case of staphylococcus. Here also streptococcus, the major type of hemolysis it produces is alpha and beta hemolysis, right? Alpha hemolysis and the beta hemolysis. Now again, remember that I kept on emphasizing on that particular thing. Please do remember what does the alpha hemolysin does in staphylococcus and what does the beta hemolysin does in staphylococcus. And I also mentioned there that this goes reverse in the case of streptococci. So here, in the case of staphylococcus, we mentioned that it was alpha hemolysin which produces a clear zone of hemolysin around a colony. Narrow but a clear zone, right? But here, as in this streptococci, you can see it is the beta hemolysin which produces a clear zone of hemolysis around the colonies, right? And in that case, it was alpha in the staphylococcus, but here it is streptococcus. Here it is beta hemolysis in the case of streptococcus, right? Another is about the beta hemolysin. If we talk about beta hemolysin of the staphylococcus, we said that it was producing the broader zone of incomplete hemolysis. But here in this incomplete hemolysis is produced by alpha hemolysin. Alpha hemolysin, right? Now, if you can see here, the beta hemolytic streptococcus, beta hemolysis streptococcus, you can see very well this beta hemolysin is produced, and you can see a clear zone around the colonies. Means there is a clear zone around the colonies. That means they have produced the beta hemolysin, and as a result of which, it caused the lysis of the RBC surrounding the colony, and there is a clear zone which is produced. But in the case of alpha hemolysis, alpha hemolytic this thing, there is slight narrow zone, slight hemolysis is produced, but it is not that much visible enough, or probably if you can appreciate, it is not that much visible or not that much, you cannot differentiate, you cannot appreciate the hemolysis as good as it is seen in the beta hemolysin which is produced by the streptococcus, right? So just reverse of the staphylococcus. If you remember, and this is how you remember, the beta hemolysis in streptococcus produces a clear zone of hemolysis, whereas in the alpha hemolytic streptococcus there is very vague or very faint hemolysis is produced, right? Now moving on is Next, we move on to the here again. There are three type of hemolysis which are produced in the produced by the streptococcus: alpha, beta, and gamma. In the case of beta, you can very well appreciate the complete hemolysis which is produced, and a complete hemolysis is there. In alpha, there is no complete, very vague hemolysis is there. A partial hemolysis you can say. Whereas in the gamma, there is no hemolysis at all. Right? Hemolysis you can see is around the colony, surfaces around the colony, which surrounds the colony. There the RBCs they rupture, and you can get a halo kind of condition there, right? This is how you can appreciate the different kind of hemolysis. Now this is how again you can see beta hemolysis, a clear zone. You very well appreciate here a clear zone around the colonies. You can see because of the complete lysis of RBCs. This is alpha hemolysis. It produces a partial hemolysis surrounding the colony, and sometimes it gives you a greenish or a brownish discoloration, right? Moving on is gamma hemolysis. That is, if a gamma hemolysin is produced by the streptococcus, there will be no hemolysis. There will be no discoloration of agar surrounding the colonies, right? So this is how you are basically, we have talked about the hemolysis, how these hemolysis which are produced by the streptococcus. Three basic hemolysis: beta, alpha, and gamma. Beta produces complete, alpha produces incomplete or the partial, and gamma produces no hemolysis at all. Now you must, how do you remember? You compare it with the staphylococcus one. By alpha and beta of staphylococcus, it's just reverse in case of streptococcus, right? So this is how talking about this. So the very first differentiating method is the kind of hemolysis which produced. The next differentiating different species of streptococcus which could be differentiated is next important method is the Lensfield classification. Now this is a very important question, and you should remember how to answer these questions. What is a Lensfield classification? Lensfield was basically a female scientist who was working, who was performing certain, who was doing her PhD on streptococcus, and the lady came up with this classification system of classifying different species of streptococcus: Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus equi, Streptococcus equisimilis, Streptococcus agalactia, dysagalacia. These are different species of streptococcus which were classified by the scientist whose second name was Lansfield. And how did she classify this? She actually used, she was working on different the cell wall content. So she used the cell wall content. There was one specific polypeptide, or I should say a polysaccharide, which was present in the cell wall of streptococcus, which is known as the group C substance. C substance. This C substance was a polysaccharide which is found in the cell wall of the different species of streptococcus, and how they react with the different antibodies. Probably each species had got different C substance, and this C substance they react to different antibody with, there is a variation. So it was basically a serological test which she came up with, where an antigen reacting with an antibody was studied, and how the different antigen, how there was a variation in the C substance, how different antigens were different. This C substance, how does it vary in different species of streptococcus, and how it reacted to different antibodies. On the basis of this, she came up with this thing classification, that is the Lensfield classification. When somebody asks you what is the Lensfield classification is a serological method which was based on the group specific C substance which is found in the cell wall of the different species of streptococcus, and this method was used for classifying the different species of streptococcus, right? Now, how did they classify? How did she use? There were two methods she came up with, by which you can go for the grouping of this thing, streptococcus species. First test was the ring precipitation test. First test is the ring precipitation. Another is the lattice agglutination test. Now, if you have, I guess you people have been completed with the immunological course. So, if immunological courses have been completed by the time now, I presume that you must be knowing what's the difference between a precipitation reaction and an agglutination reaction. Are we, do we have an idea about the precipitation and agglutination reaction? Anybody? What's the precipitation reaction and what's an agglutination reaction? I'm still waiting for an answer. Otherwise, I'll call out name. Okay. Komal Mishra. Are you there? Komal Mishra?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Komal. So, आपका immunology का course हो चुका है? I mean,
No, ma'am, complete नहीं हुई.
complete नहीं हुआ है. तो what is serological test is the antigen antibody reaction, right? When an antigen reacts with an antibody, it is considered as a serological test. Okay. So there are basically, when you study the different type of serological reaction, you can there are primary binding tests, there are secondary binding tests, and there are tertiary binding tests. Binding test is how the antigen and antibody react. On the basis of that, we have divided the serological reactions into primary, secondary, and tertiary binding tests, right? So when we talk about the precipitation and agglutination reaction, it comes under the secondary binding reaction. And what is the difference between a precipitation and agglutination reaction is, precipitation reaction में जो antigen होता है वो soluble form में होता है, जबकि agglutination reaction में जो antigen होता है वो हमारा solid form में या particulate form में होता है. Soluble means which is not, you cannot see in this thing. ठीक है, when it is an agglutination test, then your antigen has to be in a particulate form. Now you will understand when you move on to this thing. So what this lady came up with, she extracted the polysaccharide, that is the C substance, which is present in the cell wall of the streptococcus. She extracted that thing and then she reacted those things with different kind of antibodies. Now each different species of the streptococcus, they have got different C substance, and this is how they reacted with different antibodies, and that is how the classification, the group A, group B, group C, up to group A to leke group A, H and K to V, these groups have been identified, right? They were group specific carbohydrate cell wall antigens, right? Now what are the methods they used? First method was the ring precipitation test, and the second method was the agglutination. If it is a precipitation test, the antigen would be in the soluble form. तो यहाँ पे क्या किया इन्होंने, जो ये C substance है उसके cell wall से streptococcus, कोई भी एक species streptococcus की ले लो, suppose you take streptococcus agalexia which causes mastitis, उसके cell wall में से आप ये C substance निकाल दो. कैसे निकाल दो? Either heating it or with the help of some enzymatic reaction or by some acid treatment. Heat or acid treatment से आपने वो C substance को निकाल लिया. Then what you do is you take out the C substance, extract कर लिया, और फिर आप एक ट्यूब लो उसमें with a very fine diameter, छोटा diameter का एक टेस्ट ट्यूब, उसमें एक लेयर आप डिफरेंट एंटीबॉडीज की, एंटीबॉडीज मींस एंटीसीरम मींस आप सीरम डाल दो उसमें, सीरम कंटेन्स एंटीबॉडीज, तो डिफरेंट सीरम्स आपने डाल दिया उस ट्यूब में, फिर उसके ऊपर you'll put a layer of your extracted antigen, जो हमने एंटीजन एक्सट्रैक्ट किया, दैट एंटीजन की लेयर उस ट्यूब में जिसमें की सीरम है उसके ऊपर आपने एक लेयर एंटीजन की डाल दी. ठीक है, अभी क्या होगा, दिस antigen and antibody, they will either move towards each other, and at the junction जहाँ पे कि antigen and antibody मिले हैं, तो at an equivalent proportion these antigen and antibody will react with each other and there will be a precipitation formation. A precipitation will be formed, right? So that is a ring precipitation test. Whichever antibody, whichever serum which is having a specific antibody against the C substance will react with it and it will form a precipitation ring. See, this is very highly specific, right? But the highly specific means antigen जिसके against specific antibody होगी जिस serum में वो ही react करेगा, तभी हमको precipitation line दिखेगी. अगर वो specific एंटीबॉडी उसके अगेंस्ट नहीं है, उस सी सब्सटेंस के अगेंस्ट, तो हमें देयर विल बी नो रिएक्शन बिटवीन एंटीजन एंड एंटीबॉडी एंड देयर विल बी नो प्रेसिपिटेशन टेकिंग प्लेस एट द जंक्शन ऑफ एंटीजन एंड एंटीबॉडी लेयर, राइट? So that is considered as a negative test, right? Now this is about the ring precipitation test. Next important test is which was performed was latest agglutination test. See, both kind of tests are performed. The precipitation test as well as an agglutination test has been performed in the Lancefield classification. She used both kind of tests. Where the antigen was in a particulate form was a precipitation test, and where the antigen was in the the particulate form, it was considered as the agglutination test. Now what is the lady did in the agglutination test is you take a beads. Latex is what? Generally it is beads. Glass beads आपने देखे हैं. Similarly, circular color के जो glass beads होते हैं, they are sometimes considered as latex particles, right? Latex. So these glass beads, उनके ऊपर हमने specific antibody molecules को लगा दिया, ठीक है? Specific antibody molecules which are specific for this C substance of the C substance antigen of the specific Streptococcus strain or specific Streptococcus species. Okay. Now you can perform the agglutination test and you can see when there is this kind of you react those latex molecule जिनके ऊपर antibody coated है with the antigen with the C substance. If that C substance if that antibodies which are coated on the latex molecule are specific to that antigen, दोनों react करेंगे, दोनों bind करेंगे. As we know, the antibody molecules, they have got two antigen binding sites. If you can recall the structure of an antibody, there is two antigen binding sites and there is one FC site. FC is a crystallizable fragment. तो हमने अपने latex molecule के ऊपर अपना FC region of antibody से उसको bind कर दिया latex के ऊपर, right? And there is free FAB fragment. FAB means antigen binding fragment is free there. So if this antigen comes in contact with these antibody which are bound onto the surface of the latex molecule, okay, or the beads which are, or the glass beads, right? So they will react with each other. If the specificity is there, if they are highly specific, then they will react and they will give you this kind of agglutination reaction. And you will see this kind of agglutination reaction, and this is considered as a positive test, right? So coming to the Lancefield classification, if somebody asks you what is a Lancefield classification, Lancefield classification is a classification which was given to classify Streptococcus into different groups. A to H and K and B are there on the basis, and it is basically a serological reaction in which the antigen, that is the C substance of the cell wall or the polysaccharide of a cell wall of different Streptococcus species, react with their specific antibody and give you this kind of reaction. Then this is basically the serological reaction. And how do we perform this reaction? The Lancefield classification. We perform Lancefield classification, and there are two methods. There is a ring precipitation test and there is another method, that is the agglutination test. Both are serological reaction because both what happens is that in both of them there is the reaction between antigen and antibodies taking place, and this is how you get agglutination. Now I just a minute, I'll show you now in this. Can you see this picture, this first, second, third, fourth? The fourth one, in the fourth one, this is basically a latest agglutination test reaction. Here the circular structure, you can see it is a bead, latex bead, which is being coated with different antibodies. You can see antibodies is generally these are two FAB fragments and this is the FC fragment. Now FC fragment binds onto the latex molecule and two FAB fragment, that is the antigen binding fragment, they are free. So when the antigen comes into contact with these antibody molecules, this kind of cross-reactive reaction takes place. Okay, there is a cross-reactive reaction and this kind of mesh formation takes place, where the antigen and antibody react with each other, and once this kind of reaction takes place, we get a visible result, and we get an agglutinate, a clumping formation of clump-like structures are seen in the whatever you are performing the test, and this is how the agglutination reaction takes place. It is a serological reaction, right? So we discussed about the Lancefield classification. Lancefield classification is a classification, serological classification to group different species of Streptococcus on the basis of the C substance polysaccharides in the cell wall, right? Now next moving on, this is a very important topic when somebody is going to, basically when anybody is going preparing a question paper, then they come up with this Lensfield in 2 marks question or 3 marks question. You have to give this Lensfield classification. Now, what kind of this is a chart where it shows you the different species of Streptococcus and in which group they are coming in the Lensfield. कौन से Lensfield के group में है? Talking about Streptococcus pyogenes, it comes under the group A, right? Group A, and it produces, this is hemolysin. What kind of hemolysis or what kind of hemolysin it produces? Streptococcus pyogenes, a beta hemolysin. Beta hemolysin means it will produce a clear zone around the colonies, as which is just opposite of as in the case of the Staphylococcus beta toxin, right? What kind of disease condition it causes? In humans, it causes the scarlet fever, septic sore throat, abscesses, rheumatic fever, and all. And what are the virulence factor for this? Obviously, hemolysin production, beta hemolysin is one of the most important virulence factor of any Streptococcus species. Any Streptococcus which is pathogenic in nature, it will definitely produce a beta hemolysin. Okay? So hemolysin production is definitely a virulence attribute of the pathogenic Streptococcus species. Talking about Streptococcus pyogenes, what are the different virulence factor? There is M protein, which is a protein which is basically a part of the cell wall structure. So it is basically a structural entity. These structural entities, these are also capsulated. Many of these Streptococcus species are capsulated, and if it is a capsule present at any bacteria surface, if the capsule is there, then that bacteria obviously have the property of antiphagocysis. That is antiphagocytic property. That means it can very well evade the immune system. It won't allow the immune system to phagocytize. All the phagocytic cells which is present in your immune system or any other individual's immune system, capsule doesn't allow them to phagocytize them. So capsule, it provides the antiphagocytic property in the different bacteria which have got capsules, right? So M protein, exotoxins, hyaluronic acid, capsules. Hyaluronic acid is hyaluronidase enzyme जो होता है, that enzyme, it will act on the hyaluronic acid, which is basically a cementing substance between the two cells, and that is called, which will cause the destruction of the cementing substance between the cell, and thus the migration of the organism or the pathogenic organism becomes much easier from one cell to the another cell, right? Next, we move on to the Streptococcus agalactia. This agalactia arboris, these are certain Streptococcus which are basically causes mastitis, chronic mastitis. So you have to remember the name of these Streptococcus and they belong to which Lensfield group. And this is a very important chart, and you should memorize this chart if possible. So talking about agalactia, it comes in the Lensfield group B. It produces beta hemolysin. In the bracket, it is also showing alpha and gamma. That means sometimes, probably, they might produce alpha and gamma as well, but basically they produce the beta hemolysin. And the disease condition which is they are causing is cattle, goat, and sheep may they cause chronic mastitis. Humans and dog may they cause neonatal septicemia. Cat may all these infections, right? Then what are the different virulence factor? Hyaluronidase, CAMP. Now this is a very, very important, again a very important subheading within the Streptococcus, that is CAMP test, CAMP CAMP test. What is CAMP test? It is not, C stands for Christie, Atkins, Munch, and Peterson. These are the names of scientists basically. I'll be discussing in the later half about this thing. These are the name of the scientists which came up with this test, CAMP test, in order to differentiate between the mastitis causing species of Streptococcus. So different species of Streptococcus which cause mastitis, specifically bovine mastitis, उनके बीच में हम कैसे differentiate करें? तो ये जो साइंटिस्ट थे, क्रिस्टी, एटकिंस, मंच एंड पीटरसन, they came up with a test. I will be discussing that test in the later half. So there are Streptococcus agalactia is one very important Streptococcus species which causes the bovine mastitis. Other than that, there are different enzymes which are produced. There are different toxins which are produced. which provide them a virulence characteristics. Moving on to the next slide. Dysaglaxia subspecies Dysaglaxia. Again, this Dysaglaxia is the mastitis causing organism. Okay, and Dysaglaxia subspecies Equisenolis, it is also no, this is not. This is the mastitis causing. This is seen in the horses basically. So different kind of conditions which they are causing, clinical conditions, and what kind of enzymes they are releasing, which gives them the virulence attribute. Again, is equi subspecies equi beta hemolysin. It comes under the C Lancefield grouping. Strangles. This is very important point again. Strangles is caused by which species of streptococci? You should know that. And it belongs to which Lancefield grouping? It belongs to the C Lancefield grouping. Because it is causing strangles, so obviously it has to be a pathogenic form. And if it is a pathogenic streptococci, then obviously it has to secrete the beta hemolysin, right? So this is how you can very well correlate. If you have an idea about basic idea regarding the hemolysin, you can very well correlate it with the pathogenic organisms, subspecies also, right? So moving on to the next is the third is Streptococcus equi. When there is a equi or something like that, that means it is basically the major pathogen of horses, and it causes different conditions, pathological conditions in the horses and all. Right. However, they might affect different species as well. But yes, if it is an equi, the major animal to be affected would be horse. And what is the clinical condition caused is all these are the clinical conditions mentioned here would be there. So it's affecting the pigs. Different Lancefield classification group belongs to D. It produces alpha hemolysin. That means alpha hemolysin is there. That means it is not that pathogenic in nature, right? And the conditions causes meningitis, arthritis, pneumonia, and this and that. Where does it belong? Where does it? You can see, as we earlier mentioned, the streptococcus, they are very much ubiquitous in nature, which is seen throughout. I mean, you can see found them anywhere, right? So they can be basically they are commensal on the upper respiratory tract and the urogenital tract, mucous membrane. They are seen. So moving on to the next is Abris is again one of the very important mastitis causing streptococcus species. And when we differentiate between the mastitis causing streptococcus species, this is one species which is to be taken into consideration. And the test, as I mentioned earlier, the CAM test, it also differentiates Abris within this CAM test. I'll be discussing it later. Okay. Now these are the different, what do we say, the virulence determinant or the attributes. What are the different toxins the streptococcus species produce? What are the different structural entity which provide them the pathogenic characteristic? It is the chart which summarize these things here. You see the beta hemolysin is the foremost requirement for any streptococcus species to be pathogenic. It has to produce beta hemolysin, and beta hemolysin, what it does, it is cytotoxic for the bacteria, for the cells, and it targets the cell membrane. Specifically, the host cell membranes are targeted by the beta hemolysin, and as a result, the host cell membranes are destroyed, and this is how it produces pathogenicity. CAM factor of Streptococcus agalactia. I'll be discussing about the CAM factor, that is CAM. I earlier mentioned it is also considered as ceramide binding protein, and it enhances the hemolysis. I will this you will understand in the later slides. Okay, how does the CAM factor works, right? Capsular polysaccharide. Obviously, they are said that different streptococcus species have got capsule over there. That is why they sometimes produce a mucoid colonies. Any bacterial cell which has got a capsule, it will definitely produce a mucoid colony, and this is how you can differentiate a capsule producing organism and a non-capsule producing bacterial this thing. And if it has a capsule, that means obviously it will be antiphagocytic in nature, and it will evade the innate immune system. Then collagenase is from the very word collagen perfect karega and it will disturb the collagen, and that it helps in the when it disrupts the collagen, it will help in the further dissemination of your infection. I mean, the bacterial cell further moves from one cell to another cell, from one place to another place because of the destruction of collagens, right? So it helps in the dissemination of the infection of streptococcus infection. Then streptococcal C5a peptidase is again endopeptidase. Peptidase is acts, it eliminates C5a. What is C5a? C5a is, when you study in this, it is a complement fraction, complement fragment, complement Fa fragment. It is when you study a complement system. Complement system is basically an system of it's a part of an innate immune system which takes care of the, or which removes the antigen which comes into contact with your innate immune system, and it takes care of that. So what happens is streptococcal C5a peptidase, it will cleave, it will eliminate the C5a, because C5a has got very specific action in the inflammatory response. This is all you are going to study. It will all, you can correlate it when you further study in your this thing. So C5a is a component of the complement system, which is a part of your innate immune system. So कैसे हमारे immune system को destroy करना है, उनसे कैसे उनसे कैसे evade होना है, all these mechanism, all the pathogen, they carry this kind of mechanism. Either they develop this kind of mechanism to evade immune system, because it is like immune system is fighting to counteract their effect, and these organisms, they are fighting, or they are having certain things to counteract the effect of immune system. They want to multiply there, and immune system want to get rid of them. So how they do that, that's a very unique thing to understand. And they're highly specific, and it varies with the pathogen to pathogen. Now moving on to the next is exotoxins. Exotoxin productions, pyrogenic, you know, it's a fever causing exotoxin. Mitogens like super antigen, we discussed. Type of hemolysin is also super antigen. Non-specific T cell stimulation. Non-specific T cell stimulation is because of the mitogens or the super antigen only. And excessive cytokine release होगा बहुत सारा, जो कि हमारे लिए ज्यादा, I mean, it is important, release of cytokine, obviously. If you want to, if the information has to be carried from one immune cell to another immune cell, then these cytokine, they play a very important role. But excessive amount or undue amount of cytokine release, excessive amount of information release, excessive amount of information carried is also not good, right? Unnecessary information carried is also not good. So that will cause a cytokine storm, and that will be not good for your body itself. Hyaluronidase, it is again a kind of enzyme, as I mentioned. It destroys the hyaluronic acid, a cementing substance between the cells, and thus help in the dissemination of your infection. Equibatin is a cytophore. Cytophore is what? Cytophore is a kind of substances which are released by the bacterial cell, and which cyto means it has got affinity for the iron affinity, right? So iron is required by your body cell also. If these organisms, these pathogen move inside, they will also require iron. So they will compete with your with the availability of iron which is present in your body, right? So because of this competition, there will be lack of iron in your body. So again, there will be some harmful effect of that. So organisms like equibatin is secreted by Streptococcus equi, which compete for the iron, and it is known as cytophore, right? Then IgA protease. Protease enzymes means they will, this is, what is IgA? It is an immunoglobulin A molecule, right? The immunoglobulin A means it is an antibody molecule. इस antibody molecule को destroy करने के लिए एक protease enzyme release होता है by the Streptococcus species, and they will act on the hinge region of this immunoglobulin molecule, and they will break the immunoglobulin molecule, right? Again, immunoglobulin A is basically a surface immunoglobulin molecule. Surface पे जितने भी बैक्टीरिया, जितने भी एंटीजेंस हमारे बॉडी में आते हैं, उनको कॉम्बैट करने के लिए IgA plays the very important role. If it is destroyed, and it is destroyed by the proteases secreted by the bacterial cell, then obviously your body's defense system goes weak. Moving on to the next point, IgG antibody, that is again the immunoglobulin G antibody molecule. It is again IgG binding protein. It helps IgG ka, if you remember, I don't know whether you know or not, IgG molecule is a very important molecule. which for the phagocytosis. It acts a very important molecule in the complement activation, in the phagocytosis, in the opsonization. Okay. So now what happens is, if this IgG molecule has been destroyed, or it has been counteracted by the organisms, then what will happen is that there will be no complement activation would be there. There will be no opsonization process will be there, and in this way there is prevention, or there will be no phagocytosis by your immune system. Leukocidal toxins, again leukocidal है means leukocytes को kill कर रही है, something to do with that. Fibronectin binding protein, neuraminidase release protein. ठीक है. So this is how different toxins, different structures of your pathogen, different toxins released by your pathogen, when different exotoxins with different enzymes released by your pathogen, they will try and help them evade the immune system. Right? These are again different factors: peptidoglycan, plasminogen receptor. I don't know, but you how much you will remember. You just go through it. Right. Now coming to the another important is the most important point of streptococcus में हमारा, being a microbiologist, being a bacteriologist, you have to go for the laboratory diagnosis. तो अभी मैं laboratory diagnosis में किसी भी चीज का specifically talking in terms of bacterial diagnosis, then what do we do is, सबसे पहले जैसे हमने staphylococcus में भी there would be like staining आप करेंगे. स्टेनिंग में या डायरेक्ट माइक्रोस्कोपिक एग्जामिनेशन करके आप बताएंगे. स्टेनिंग के बाद आप you go for the isolation and identification. That is another method. And as I mentioned earlier in the previous classes also, isolation of any pathogenic species is the gold standard test in microbiology. You talk about any pathogen, whether it's a virus or a bacteria or a fungus. If you go for an isolation, that's a gold standard test. However, there are certain other, but isolation has its own shortcoming. This is because it's a time-taking process, and with isolation, you have to go for this confirmative diagnosis and confirmative identification for that organism. So probably the easier method is you go for the molecular diagnosis. So which is what do we say? It is nowadays it has been the most common test for the laboratory diagnosis of any kind of pathogen. So starting with the laboratory diagnosis, you go for the sample collection. Whatever sample is coming to you, you first go for the what do we say is the staining technique, direct microscopic examination, then go for isolation and identification, then you go for the molecular diagnosis test. And if there are some certain serological tests are there, as we said that I already mentioned in the case of streptococci, there is the latest agglutination test, there is the precipitation test. So you can also go for the serological testing as well, right? Diagnosis. So starting with the streptococcus laboratory diagnosis, again first method, microscopy. You go whatever sample you have got, you prepare a slide, you go for the staining with the Grams method. In the Gram staining, what you are going to see is you are going to see the Gram positive organism, that is cocci in nature, that is rounded in nature, and they will be present in the chain form. Okay, chain will be there. Now next is FAT. FAT is fluorescent antibody testing. Fluorescent antibody testing is FAT. It will generally FAT, because you have not studied of your immunological portion. So FAT is generally fluorescent antibody testing. What here is we do is, जो भी एंटीजन होते हैं, we are suspecting, जैसे कोई भी टिश्यू सैंपल आया आपके पास, कोई भी टिश्यू सैंपल आया, कोई भी पस सैंपल आया, आप सस्पेक्ट कर रहे हो कि इस टिश्यू में, इस पस में स्ट्रेप्टोकोकस है. For example, streptococcus suis, you suspect, not streptococcus का infection है, तो आप क्या करोगे? You suspect the antigen of streptococcus is there in that. Now you will take a specific antibody which is specific to streptococcus को specific antibody, और उस antibody को आप tag कर दोगे. Tag कर दोगे means उस antibody से आप एक fluorescent dye को bind कर दोगे. तो क्या होगा? ये antibody जिसपे आपने fluorescent पीछे की तरफ FC region में fluorescent dye लगा दिया है, इस एंटीबॉडी को when you treat with an antigen, अगर वो एंटीजन होगा सैंपल में, तो this antibody will go and bind with that antigen to please that antibody which is tagged with the antigen with the antibody will go and bind onto the antigen, and when you put certain UV light on it, it will produce a color, fluorescence means color. तो यह होता है fluorescent antibody test is an antibody molecule specific to a particular antigen is tagged with the fluorescent dye is then used to identify the antigen. Means FAT test में आप antigen का identification करते हो with the help of specific antibody. There is a known specific antibody which is tagged to the antibody which is tagged to the fluorescent dye, and you can detect the presence of antigen in the clinical sample with the help of FAT test. Okay, आपको समझ में आया है कुछ? This is how the FAT reaction looks like, right? The fluorescence आपको इस तरीके से production मिलता है, right? Now moving on to the isolation. Isolation जैसे कि हमने पहले भी डिस्कस किया है कि what is the criteria of isolation? Streptococcus they are fastidious in the requirement. That means ऐसा आपको medium लेना है जिसमें कि आपका स्ट्रेप्टोकोकाई ग्रो कर जाए. तो आपको जनरली आप ब्लड अगार लेंगे, हाँ, या कुछ ऐसा मीडियम लेंगे जिसमें कि सीरम एडेड है, ठीक है. ऑन दैट ओनली यू कैन ग्रो योर स्ट्रेप्टोकोकस स्पीशीज. Fine. So you take a clinical sample, you inoculate on a blood agar or the medium which contains a serum. Then sometimes some streptococcus they require some carbon dioxide also for the growth. So when you are incubating it in a BOD, that is biological oxygen demand incubator, for a 24 to 48 hours for the growth to take place. When you are incubating it, you make sure that certain, if you want to isolate the streptococcus, you make sure you provide certain amount of carbon dioxide also, so that it will grow. This streptococcus will grow, right? And this is how you can get the growth of streptococcus. Then isolation के बाद हम क्या करेंगे? Isolation के बाद we will move on to the identification. Now esculin hydrolysis, it is one test of identification of the presence of. Okay, to this before moving on to that, this is one media, Edwards media. Edwards media में it is a highly selective media for the growth of streptococcus, right? Highly selective for streptococcus. Now, if you can see esculin, some streptococcus they can use the esculin, they cause the esculin hydrolysis. What is esculin basically? Does anybody have any idea about what is esculin we are talking about?